Welcome back, everyone. Michael here with Offshore Citizen. Today I'm going to depart from the normal line of conversation. We're going to talk about 4 key qualities that will help you to stand out today. So we're going to jump into that. Before we get started, they say you should smash, obliterate the subscribe button, the like button, and let's get started. Okay, so one of the things that I think is really important is obviously people who are on this channel, people like you, people like me, we're interested in some measure of success, freedom, etc. in our lives, right? And so the question then becomes, I think there's 2 sides to it. The one is, how do we get there? And the other one is, what is the world lacking? And generally speaking, we know kind of through laws of supply and demand that what is valuable tends to be that which is scarce. So what is there a dearth of in the world today? And you can sit and you can look at someone like Elon Musk and say, okay, what does Elon bring to the world that other people do not bring? Or you can go and you can look at, in your own life, looking around and saying, hey, listen, what is it that is missing, right? It's probably been one of the biggest drivers in my life. Like I can tell you that in starting Offshore Capitalist, what was one of my big drives? Well, there was just a lack of good information out there. Now, over time, hopefully that will improve. Back in the day, I used to do card magic and similar thing. I wrote some books on the subject. Why did I do that? I did it because I came up with some techniques, some ideas that nobody else had written about at the time. And I had conversations with people and they said, wow, can you explain how you do that? And so I wrote some books on it, right? But generally, I think there's a lot of value in contributing something to the world that is not there. So with that in mind, here are the 4 qualities, and there's probably a few others, but 4 qualities that I have observed as being in great scarcity today in the world. And as a result, they're extremely valuable. When I think about who I hire, who I work with, who I try to be myself, these are qualities. Okay, so number 1 quality that we're going to start off with is initiative. All right, I've noticed over the last little while a real dearth of initiative. What do I mean by that? Well, very often I'll have conversations with people and I'll explain to them, hey, listen, and we discuss some idea, some concept, right? And they'll say, oh, that's a really good idea. And that's where it ends, right? It doesn't go any further. So to go from ideas to doing something about it, to putting something out in the world, to building something new is quite a rare thing. And you can look at this in many different ways, right? Who's the person who's going to see that something is dirty and they're going to go and clean it, right? Who is the person who's going to observe a problem and they're going to make a change? Who's going to see an opportunity, they're going to make a change? Who's going to go out there and they're going to say, hey, listen, somebody's feeling down and I should, go and do something about it. Hey, there's a problem with this piece of technology, let me go and build it better, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so if you are the person who takes initiative, you are by far more valuable than the average, way head and shoulders above. And I observe this in my own staff as well. I have some people who are fantastic where I'll be in a situation and they're like, hey, listen, what can I take on? What am I, what are the opportunities that I have? Hey, I put this together for you. If you employ people at all, you know that this is absolutely the type of thing that you would love, right? So often you have to tell people what to do. The person who doesn't have to be told what to do, who takes initiative, are they more or less valuable? Most of the time, in most positions, I don't know, maybe the guy who sits there and waits for the alarm to go off on the nuclear reactor and you don't want them pressing a false alarm or something. Maybe there's like one exception, but most of the time, people who take initiative far better off. So we try and cultivate a habit of taking initiative. Okay, so that's quality number 1. What is quality number 2? Quality number 2, I find, is resourcefulness. All right, very often, there's a Tony Robbins line where he says, the defining factor is never resources, it's resourcefulness. And how often do people say, oh, I don't know. Oh, I don't have this, I don't have that. And they get stuck, right? And just the very act of generating possibilities, I deal with this with staff, again, with coaching them quite often, is to say, hey, listen, you're not getting the result, okay? You're saying, hey, listen, there is this objective out there, and you're doing something that's not getting a result. And they're either not gonna do it, they give up, or they just continue doing the same thing over and over again, as opposed to getting resourceful about the problem and saying, okay, great, what else might I do? Maybe I'm emailing and I'm not getting a response. Okay, have I called? Have I texted? Have I reached out to other people that know them? Have I gone and, changed my communication? How can I change my style of communication? And so on and so forth, right? Generating possibilities. And so I'm a big believer that just the act of getting used to generating possibilities, if you're to go and read on Facebook, I'll often put out things that they're kind of these weird ideas that they're not designed to be something that will be applicable, right? It's not to say, hey, listen, here's the solution, but I'll throw out thought experiments. And what's the purpose of that? The purpose of it is to start circulating ideas that hopefully is going to translate. So it's spurring up some resourcefulness. We cross-pollinate these ideas, and then at some point, as we play with them, and we stress test them, and we iterate them, eventually it turns into something pretty good. So that is the quality number 2. I would far, far rather deal with people who are resourceful, either as service providers, as clients even, as employees, as business partners, as friends, as a spouse, etc., than people who are not. Very, very important, resourcefulness. What is number 3? Number 3 is an execution bias. So there's just so much focus out there today on talking, on planning, on thinking, on whatever else, as opposed to just getting in and getting shit done. Like the people who get in and just execute, those people were way ahead, way ahead, like far, far, far more than almost anyone else out there. So just training myself to have an execution focus, to get up and say, okay, let's do it, to not get stuck, to not get caught up in loops of conversation, to not get execution is ultimately everything, right? So execution focus, execution obsession, I would say. I would rarely say that I run into people who execute too much. I very, very often run into people who execute too little and too slow, etc. So send the email, go and jump on the task, get the thing done, on and on and on. Anyway, that's number 3, execution focus. And again, real shortage of it. Real shortage of it in the world compared to what there should be. And it's really, in a sense, very easy to do. All these things are easy to do. Anyone can do them, right? What's number 4? Number 4 is courage. And this is really, it comes up for me a lot in pop culture as it's dangerous to have certain ideas. It's dangerous to say certain things. When I was first mentioning my own company, Offshore Capitalist, to someone, they said, ooh, it's offshore, that word. It's like, fuck you guys. There is just a lack of courage. Stand for something, stand up for it. And the interesting thing is, there's so many people who agree, right? There is a large number of people who think the same thing that you think, but they're not willing to stand up for it. And so when you have the courage to stand up for it, you immediately get a lot of respect, you immediately got a lot of following, you immediately got a lot of attention, all these different things that work in your favor. So anyway, those are the 4 things that I have observed of late, or some of the 4 things that there's an absence of them in the world. And so just in my own reflections and desire to improve myself, improve my business, improve the world, and so on and so forth. These are, I think, great qualities to practice, and hopefully they're helpful to you too. If you liked it, please click the subscribe button, click the like button, go and if you want to help with international structures, setting up companies, opening bank accounts, discovering how to optimize your tax legally, doing asset protection, getting high-risk payment processing, getting citizenships by investment, residencies, etc., please reach out to us. You can go to www.offshorecitizen.net or offshorecapitalist.com. You can go to clarity.fm/Michael Rosmer if you'd like to book a call with me. And I will see you guys on the next video.